What is up, OChem 2? This is your TA, Rachel, and your TA, Andreas, and today we're going to be talking about
reactions with benzene
and ortho, para, meta directors and such. So yeah, we're gonna do some review on this, and Andreas is gonna lead this off. I know this looks super scary to you guys right now, probably, but it's not. It's just a reaction scheme. We're just gonna go over it. We're gonna explain it to you, and hopefully this helps. It's a different kind of review than what has been done in the past, but we're just gonna roll with it. So Andreas, take it away.
All right. So essentially, what we have here is our starting material, which is benzene, and we're gonna do a plethora of reactions, synthesis reactions, basically, to that could start with benzene. So let's follow the first arrow, and let's have it to be this one. So here we have chloromethane in presence of aluminum chloride. Now what this will do is we'll actually attach the number of carbons that is already attached to the chlorine. So since this is chloromethane, there's only one carbon, so we're going to get a new bond formed between the benzene ring and a methyl group here. So we would get this methyl benzene, which is also known as toluene. Now methyl benzene, actually the methyl group will function as an ortho-para director. So when we proceed to the nitration that occurs upon reaction with the nitric acid and the sulfuric acid, what we'll get is an ortho isomer, which is, a para isomer, which is this one right here, and then also the ortho isomer, which I did not draw because there would not be enough room in the board, but you have to mention that you will get both ortho and para isomers from this one. Now, we proceed by reacting the newly nitrated toluene with bromine in presence of ferric bromide. Now the difference is that when we use ferrum iron instead of aluminum, what will happen is we actually halogenate. Now the nitro group that was previously added will function as a meta director, so it would have the bromide to go either in this position here or this position. Now, given that this still functions as an ortho-para director, it could only have the bromide either here or here, since the para position is already occupied. So this is the accepted structure. Now, moving on to the second pathway, we could have aluminum chloride again, and we're going to add basically the entire alkyl group, since we react with aluminum chloride, to the benzene ring. So this is going to be our isopropyl substituent here that goes on the benzene ring, and then that will act as an ortho-para director, as we said before, because it's an alkyl group, right? So alkyl groups always will act as ortho-para directors. Now, moving on to proceed to put acyl chloride here, we're going to have the acyl group attached to the benzene ring with a substitution from before, and then we can further nitrate this with nitric acid and sulfuric acid. Now what happens here is that the acetyl group functions as a meta director, so it will require to have the nitro group on a meta position, and then, like we said before, alkyl groups do work as ortho-para directors. Therefore, this is the accepted position that is in agreement with both the nitro group being para to the isopropyl group and being in meta position of the acetyl group. The next reaction scheme to consider is when we take propyl chloride here in presence of aluminum chloride. And again, what this will do is to add the propyl group here onto the ring. So we proceed with this attachment, and then when we use the ferric bromide, what will happen is we're going to attach the halide, the bromine, on this ring. Remember, this is a meta director, therefore the acceptable position for the bromine to go would be here or here. We selected this one. Then we proceed to react with amine and in presence of hydroxide. And what this will do is going to reduce it into, it's going to reduce the ketone here into single bonds, all right?
So no more carbonyl.
No more carbonyl, yes, correct. Then we can actually, now this functions as a orthopara director. And then this is a halide, so it functions also as an orthopara director. So the nitration here that occurs is to have the nitro group in this position here to be ortho, right? I'm sorry, to be para to the bromine, and also ortho to the alkyl group. So this nitration here is in agreement with both. Or you could have it in this position here, which is ortho to the bromine, and I'm sorry, you could have it here, which is ortho to the bromine, and also para to the alkyl group. So the only acceptable positions would be this one mentioned and this carbon. And then moving on, we can use hydrogen in presence of PDC in order to remove the oxygen groups and basically reduce the nitro group to an amine group, and that's what we observe right here.
Awesome.
Then,
All right, moving on.
Moving on, again we use chloromethane with aluminum chloride to get a toluene. Then the toluene we're gonna react it with sulfur trioxide in presence of sulfuric acid. What this will do, again, the toluene here, the methyl group functions as an orthopara director, so one position is to attach the sulfide in this para position, or you should designate that you also have the ortho isomer. So now, since we selected this structure, we reacted with excess of chlorine and ferric chloride. And remember, the iron group is actually going to tell us that we're going to halogenate again. So the halogenation, since it happens in excess, it's going to be in positions that are, it's going to substitute all possible positions. That's what the excess does here. Now, you have to consider where are you going to place the chlorine. Well, this is an orthopara director, so you can have it here or here. And then the ortho position is already occupied. So the methyl group here already indicates that it has to go here. Now, the SO3H is actually a meta director, and either of these positions suffices. So these two groups are in agreement with where the chlorine needs to be placed. Given that it was in excess, you have to designate that both positions get substituted. Proceeding, we react with potassium permanganate, which will ultimately yield to the creation of a carboxylic acid group here. And this carbon right here, basically, it's going to get oxygenated and then have a hydroxyl group, and that will be the end of this reaction scheme.
Awesome.
Now, we have a few more left. So here we use chloroethane, aluminum chloride, and the chloroethane is going to give us ethyl benzene, and the ethyl benzene here function as orthopara director, since this is an alkyl group. So in presence of propyl chloride with aluminum chloride, what we'll get is we're going to get into the ortho position or the para position. We chose the ortho here just for variance, but you have to designate both. I insist on that. Otherwise, you're going to lose points at the exam. Now, this functions as a meta director, whereas this functions as an orthopara director. So let's see what happens here. We have iron chloride, so ferric chloride. The iron is going to proceed to halogenation. So the chlorine here is not in excess, so only one position is going to be substituted. Now, you see here that the chlorine is in meta position of this group, and it's in ortho position of this group, which is in agreement. The other possible way to have it would be to be in this position where the chlorine would be ortho to the ethyl group here, and then it will be meta to this group. But we chose this one. It cannot be the case that this ortho position suffices anything because it's already occupied. Now, we're going to do bromination here in presence of light. And in order for that to occur, we need a benzylic hydrogen. Benzylic hydrogens are the hydrogens on this carbon, and we know that because this carbon is adjacent to a benzene ring, therefore its hydrogens are named as benzylic. Such bromination occurs by removal of one of those hydrogens, the benzylic hydrogens, and yields to the bromination of this adjacent carbon to the ring. Now, moving on, we can use a strong base such as potassium terephthalic in order to eliminate the bromine, and actually create a double bond. Then, moving on, we can leave this at that and use presence of NH2 and H2 with hydroxide in order to get rid of the carbonyl here and actually hydrogenate that to reduce it. So that will be another final product if you were to follow this reaction scheme. Moving on, we use now bromine in presence of ferric bromide. So we do know that this will yield to halogenation of the benzene ring. So as we have the halogenation, halogens act as ortho-para directors. Therefore, this is going to be our para isomer. You need to write down the ortho isomer as well. Now, as soon as you're here in presence of tin and hydrochloric acid, the nitro group is going to reduce to an amine group.
Which is the same as what reaction? Or what reagents?
It's the same thing as using the hydrogen in presence of PDC. And I'm sure we used that before.
So they do the same thing,
Yeah.
those two.
Now, we can have chlorine here with ferric chloride, in presence of ferric chloride. And again, whenever you see the iron atom, it means that your halogen is going to be attached to the ring, right? Only when you have aluminum, it's going to be the alkyl stuff that's going to be attached to the ring. Now, we have the attachment of the chlorine here, then we react that with butyl chloride, and in presence of aluminum chloride, as I was saying, the alkyl group, so this segment is going to be attached to the ring, this segment. So now considering this is an ortho-para director, the para position is right here. You should write also the ortho isomer, which would be here or here, this carbon or that carbon. So considering that we use the para isomer, this is our new molecule. And now you can reduce this new molecule in presence of zinc and mercury with hydrochloric acid to actually get, again, an alkane-like chain. All right? That is completely saturated.
Yeah, so get rid of the carbonyl.
Yeah, so you get rid of the carbonyl. This is the same functioning as using NH2NH2 in presence of hydroxide. So I hope this made sense to you and there was no mistakes to it and everything works out. So best of luck with your exam.